Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Redington virtual webinar sessions. Today's topic we have from Fortinet Secure Remote Work, and this session will be developed by our pre-sales consultant, Ravi Pitawala. In case you have any questions during the session, I would request you to please put in all your queries in the Q&A tab, and Ravi will be answering all your questions towards the end of the session. Ravi, you can begin.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Vindhya. Good afternoon. So today's presentation is secure remote work at the scale and how Fortinet will help you to secure your remote work. So we'll start the presentation. So as you know that we are in a situation where new norm is to work from the home, and not only that, in the situation of the crisis where we are right now, but there are a situation where you might also need your employee to work from home or remotely. For example, any natural disaster, global pandemic, any act of terror, and you in a situation that employee cannot go to the office and work. At that time you will require a proper solution, and also that solution which can scale for your remote work. An important consideration for organization that develop this plan is the business continuity. So organization may not be capable of sustaining a normal operation like they do on site when they are moving to the remote work solution, but the ability to support employee working remotely is essential to ensure both business continuity and security. And Fortinet solution offers integrated Fortinet solution that has the integrated solution to support teleworks, Fortinet next generation firewall, built-in support for the IPsec virtual private network, which enable remote worker to connect securely to comply to the company's network, and also with the endpoint protection that is provided by the Forti client and multi-factor authentication along with the Forti authenticator for the enterprise network. Organization can securely support remote work and maintain the business continuity at the same time. The ability to securely support a remote workforce is essential component of any organization's business continuity and disaster recovery plan. An organization may be incapable of sustaining a normal operation that they do on site due to the power outrage, as I mentioned, but they has to have a separate plan which at least provide basic functionality for the remote worker. And for over 400,000 Fortinet customers, their existing technology deployment already contain the functionality and all the feature support which will help them to create this continuity plan. So before I proceed, just would like to inform you about the Fortinet security fabric. So it is a broad integrated and automated. How it is that given the situation, cyber criminals are likely to target organizations that have made a sudden transition into the remote work solution, and having the automated protection of a full security in place from the moment a teleworker program is implemented is crucial, and Fortinet security fabric will help you against the cyber criminals. That comes a standard with your Fortinet security platform. So Fortinet security platform next generation firewall is a core at the Fortinet security fabric, and this will help you to provide a protection against the cyber criminals. It is broad, as I mentioned, integrated and automatic solution which will help you for the security driven networking that secure and accelerate the network and user experience. It will give you zero trust network access, which is most important in today's world to to have the implementation of zero trust policy that identify and secures the user and devices both on and off network. Dynamic cloud security that secures and control cloud infrastructure and application. And also this will help you for the artificial AI driven security operation, that is artificial intelligence, with the technology of Forti Sandbox that will automatically prevent, detect and respond to cyber criminal threats. So when we talk about the teleworker solution, the for enterprise, the main product or the main component is the identity and access management solution. So this diagram, it represents some of the typical use cases and deployment of our identity and access management solution. You can see it is both flexible and robust that will meet your identity need at the enterprise. Now when we talk about the remote work solution for the enterprise, where they have thousands and hundred and thousands of employee, where they need to provide a remote access, the recommendation is not to put the authentication workload on the next generation firewall, but to have a dedicated solution which will be doing the authentication part for all the VPN users or the remote user. So that will not only offload the CPU and RAM usage from the next generation firewall, but it will give you the better visibility and more functionality like a FortiGate single sign-on. You can authenticate the user via certificate as well, and you can use the Forti Authenticator as a radius server as well, and it can support the multiple type of users. So often with the identity and access management solution, as I mentioned, these are the technology that will be supported with the Forti Authenticator. And talking about the two-factor authentication, it is more crucial than before to have it for all the remote worker. Why it is? Because user and password is often not enough. Anyone can go and try and predict to provide a different username. Maybe they can launch an different kind of brute force attack or a credential stuffing attack, where they have downloaded the database of username and password from a dark web, and they can use that using a script to launch an attack and get into the network. So very important to have the multi-factor authentication for all your remote work. Now, what is the market opportunity that we have? According to the new market research, multi-factor authentication market is expected to grow at 15.5 to reach around 12.5 billion by 2020. And this includes the increase, because this growth, it includes the increase in data breaches, cyber attack, credential stuffing attack, growing pressure of data security compliances, and adoption of the bring your own device concept among many enterprises. And identity as a service, according to Gartner, by 2020 right now, 40% of the IAM solution will use identity and access management as a service delivery model, not as a standalone, which is up from 20% what was actually discovered in 2016. And if we talk about the historic usability of issues of the multi-factor authentication, you might have seen this kind of image. If you can see on bottom of the right side, there is a small hardware like a pager, where you can press a button and it will give you a different 6-digit code which you need to use as a multi-factor authentication, and this token will be synced on the server which is located on the customer premise, and user actually have to carry this hardware token all the time with them. And there are chances that with 6-digit code they might enter a different 6-digit code, maybe a typo error, and it is the most common error for the hardware two-factor authentication. And also it was difficult to read this small 6-digit, and most importantly, all the user have to carry this 6-digit code. Now in some cases, even right now, you might require a hardware token where you cannot only rely on the, for example, SMS or OTP software based token, and you might need a hardware based token for the as a second backup option for the user when they forgot, they don't have the mobile access, or they might lost their mobile phone, so you want still to allow access to all that user, so you can use that as a backup server. But again, there are common common issues with the hardware token which we have identified over the year. So when we talk about the multi-factor authentication, it's pretty straightforward. That's something you know the something you have and something you are. You can use any of this option as a second factor of authentication, but in current situation, when we talk about the two factor or multi-factor authentication, the most important or the most secure way to authenticate is what something you are, that is the biometric option like a face recognition or a fingerprint scanner through iOS or for different mobiles. So this is what you can use as a multi-factor of authentication, which is more secure. On top of that, as we know that vast majority of the population has the cell phone, and the share of the smartphone is 85% up from previous research which was conducted in 2011. And this gives us the opportunity to use this application as a tool to provide a second factor of authentication, and all the enterprise and users which have the mobile devices, they can use the second factor of authentication on the mobile app itself. They don't have to carry any hardware. They don't have to wait for the SMS. They can directly use the Fortinet application, which they can install it on the Android and iOS device. So as told you, this is a multi-factor authentication. It is most accomplished through your mobile phone. As you can see on the right side, there is the FortiToken app, which is actually showing a notification. Now again, this is way easier than what we have seen before. You don't have to put a 6-digit code. We have FortiToken push option. So if you try to log in, this is the demo which I will show you once I finish the presentation. Mobile push function is there for the end user, and they can either click on approve and deny, and then they can authenticate even without the 6-digit code. And it also has the functionality on the mobile devices to open this app via fingerprint or retina scan or the face recognition, which will significantly increase the identity confidence. Now, this is what I'm talking about. You can put a lock on your application when you try to open this FortiToken app. And when we talk about the token, these are the token product family that we have. Hardware FT200, which is same as the pages kind of small hardware. Then we have the FT250, which is available in the form of card like a credit card, debit card. And finally FT300, which is the USB. So you need to plug this USB into the laptop when you want to use this as a second factor of authentication. So this is the full line of secure hardware token. And already we discussed that the FortiToken, which is a software based token available. And again, when we talk about the remote teleworker user, these are the product or the component that we need to consider, which is most importantly is the FortiGate. You can use the FortiGate to authenticate the FortiToken directly against the FortiGate, so that it's a cost effective and centralized. That means you don't have to, for a small and medium customer, FortiGate is enough, and it's recommended to have the all the token. You can directly manage it on the FortiGate itself. You don't have to go for the Forti Authenticator or the FortiToken Cloud. Now, what is the Forti Authenticator? It is the recommend that when you have the more user, more than 200 user, 300 user, you can go ahead with a dedicated authentication solution, so that it doesn't put a load on the your firewall and keep the resources free for the other security related task. And you can use the FortiGate as a Forti Authenticator for the centralized device for the two-factor authentication service. And this one device can support the multiple FortiGate devices. So if you have more than one branch where you want to authenticate the user and you want to allow the access, you can use the Forti Authenticator. And finally, FortiToken. So FortiToken on cloud, it is available on the cloud as well. So you can go ahead with the FortiToken cloud option. There is no hardware cost required. You can directly manage everything from the cloud. So these are the three core components of a teleworker solution. And moving on, we will discuss about the use cases. And one of the most common use cases for for teleworker is the remote access VPN. Now, as I mentioned, there are different way you can authenticate the user, and on top of that we can put the multi-factor authentication, so that we will put a additional security. I confirm the identity of the user, who they are and actually what they are. So this is the most common use case of the teleworker. We act when they access all the resources of the company via remotely. And we have categorized all this teleworker solution into three different user. One is a general user, second one is the power user, and third one is the super user. Now I'm going to talk this thing in a different way. Each user, what is their role, how to protect each user, what are the resources they need to access. So I will talk about the general roaming use cases. General roaming user, in this scenario, everyone in your company will have a situation where they need to roaming support, or like how we are seeing right now, for example in COVID situation, where they are actually working from the remote, or actually working from anywhere but not from the company premise. And for the vast majority of the employee, this can be the standard setup for the remote work. And if they are at home, they can use their laptop and continue to work, or even from mobile. But for the super user and the power user, those user might be in situation where they are at their remote location, but so that will fall under general roaming user, power user and super user. But when they are roaming, for example at the coffee shop, hotel, airport, they fall back into the general roaming user. So 90% of your employee, mostly or more than that, will fall into the general uh, roaming user. And super user and power user, when they're roaming around different places, they will also fall under the general roaming user. And what are the power users? These are the network admins or the technician, which requires a higher resources or of the company's resources than the normal user. And super users are like top executive, maybe a business unit head, or a CEO or CFO company, or a network admin which has the higher credential to access the critical resources. So this user fall under the super user. Now we will going to discuss each user into detail. Now what are the element of the teleworker solution for the general user? So again, it is like a Forti client which is available as free of cost software, which you can use to connect to the head office via IPsec VPN or the SSL VPN. And apart from that, Forti token is also a part of the this teleworker solution for the general user. So this is a very few component of from the FortiGate that you will require for the general user. Now, when we talk about the setting up of this general user, they will require only basic email access. Need to have the internet access, maybe teleconferencing like a Zoom meeting request or a Microsoft Team, and limited file sharing. On top of that, they will have the functionality capability like finance, HR, etc. from the remote work side. Now, this also include access to the software as a service application that might be on the cloud. And for that, you don't want all of the internet traffic to go to the head office, and then after connecting to the head office firewall, they go and access the application on the cloud. So for that, we have the option split tunnel, which you can enable. So only hard the traffic which is destined for the head office will come to the Fortinet, FortiGate device. All the other traffic will directly route through their home router on the internet. So this is a main use case of a general user. You need to enable the split tunnel. And apart from that, if you want to manage, or if you want to see what the user is doing on the internet, what kind of website they're accessing, you can disable it. But on top of that, the higher level view of the general user is remain with the Forti client, FortiGate, and additional layer of security for Forti token. So this is what is the component of the general user. Going forward, when we talk about the power user, So these are the users that might need to connect multiple devices at the same time to the head office. They might, so I'm talking about not only one laptop, they might need to connect multiple laptop, multiple phones to the head office. So in this kind of scenario, you cannot only go ahead and use the 40 client. It will be not only a workload, more workload on the employee, but also from the troubleshooting perspective, if there is any, it will take a lot of time. So in this scenario, you can use the 40 AP. Now 40 AP will connect securely to the 40 gate over the internet. You have the out of box integration where you just need to click configuration from the 40 gate. It will automatically connect to the 40 AP. And on top of that, you can of course use the 40 token for any users who is trying to access via 40 client. So how the power users will connect using the 40 AP, and they will connect using a secure connection to the 40 gate over the internet, so that your traffic is not only remain secure, but it's also encrypted to the 40 gate over the internet. And optionally, you can enable the split tunnel for direct access to the internet for the cloud and SaaS applications. So this is same as the split tunnel that we can configure for the 40 client. Now power users are the users, for example, IT support technician, maybe emergency person, or maybe top HR executive, where they need to access more devices from their remote location to the head office. And also on head office, they might need to access a different resources. So these are the users that fall under the power users. And as I mentioned, this 40 AP, it can be deployed with zero touch provisioning and will be managed by FortiGate next generation firewall in the office. So you don't have to recruit any other solution. You can directly manage 40 AP from the FortiGate manager and configure using the zero touch provisioning, which is very easy for administrator. And finally, when we talk about the super user, so we are looking at for this user, we are looking to provide highest level of security. It included in network admins, emergency personnel, top executive. And for these people, you really want to make sure that they have full access to the corporate network and they are fully protected. For this reason, we actually recommend putting a FortiGate at their location, and then it really turns this location into a small branch. So this is a recommendation for the super user. So this involves FortiGate itself, and you might also want to use the any IP telephone. So FortiPhone is available as a soft client and the hardware option, and then you can actually create this remote location as your one of the small branches. So for this, as I mentioned, while they are working from the home, the same solution as the basic telecommunicator power user, they might also require the additional functionality like a FortiPhone. So when they have more than one user or more than one laptop, you can also use the 40 AP, which you can connect to the same FortiGate which they are using. And FortiPhone will provide the functionality of the teleconferencing for the VoIP service, and it can be managed by on-site FortiGate firewall itself or the FortiManager, which is centralized management platform deploy at the headquarter location. So this will give you more option where you want to manage the different solution, whether you want to manage it from the kind of remote FortiGate or you want to manage it from the central location, the different solution, FortiPhone, 40 AP, that we can decide. So these are the element that we have discussed so far, which is the from the remote side, super user, power user, and general roaming user. But let's take a look at the element of the teleworker solution on the head office. What are the solution that is required? So as we know, FortiGate remains the core solution. On top of that, Forti Authenticator for a centralized authentication, identity access management solution, Forti Client EMS, which is the endpoint protection, and to manage all the anti-malware agent. You can use the FortiClient, FortiManager, and FortiAnalyzer that will give you the centralized functionality for all the FortiGate devices. So you would have, most of the customer might have FortiGate, FortiAnalyzer, FortiManager, and FortiEMS. So they already have all the solution in place to support the teleworker situation. So they don't have to go for the different solution, because FortiGate itself supports a lot of VPN tunnel. For example, this the 100E, it supports the concurrent IPsec VPN user up to 10,000. And also you can see on the last column manage 40 AP, which is 32. So for example, if you are managing 2040 AP in the office from FortiGate, you can still support 12 power users using the 40 AP and manage that 40 AP from the FortiGate. And with the hardware encryption built into FortiGate, we can support thousands of concurrent VPN tunnel at scale. So this is what the FortiGate different model supports, the different SSL VPN user, concurrent SSL VPN, IPsec VPN user. And the most important thing is this, all the solution that we are discussing, these are the functionality that is built into the FortiGate box, and you don't require a extra license. And as you can see, the larger models, it supports thousands of SSL VPN and IPsec VPN users. That is enough to scale the remote user on a large scale. So what have we discussed is that Fortinet solution for the remote offices, it can be easily deployed. However, organization also requires resources on site or on the cloud to securely support teleworker. Now, many organizations, as I mentioned, might have all these resources in place if they have all the FortiGate product. And on top of that, even if they don't have, they can still go ahead with the FortiGate next generation firewall, which has the encryption capability to provide a secure connection for the remote user, and they can use the two-factor authentication. FortiGate next generation firewall also includes the integration with the common IT infrastructure like a Active Directory, and then they can support with the Active Directories like a solution like a single sign-on, which will enable the remote connectivity of the entire workforce, and they can connect to the remote office securely. Now, these are the different teleworker users that we have. 40 AP that will support power user, then FortiGate which will support super user. Now what I'm going to show you the demo of a two-factor authentication via SSL VPN, which is a browser-based VPN. So most of the partner, they might be aware about the Forti token, which is right now in huge demand as we in this situation, but very few partner is aware about the push token option. So what in that scenario it will give you, you will not have to type the 6-digit code from the application. You just have to click on the approve or deny button, and then they will be easily connect to the head office. So I will share my screen. I will open the one browser. So this is our VPN, SSL VPN link. As you can see, let me first connect my mobile so that I will able to show you how the token looks like. Give me a moment, I will connect my mobile. Yeah, so now you can see my mobile as well. So I will type on user where I have already configured the token and push token is already enabled. When I try to log in into this SSL VPN, which is browser based, you will see that I got a login request. So I will just click on approve. So once I approve, I don't have to provide the 6-digit code. So this will automatically log into the token, automatically log to my login into the SSL VPN token. Same is applied for the client based token as well. As you can see, this is the same user and I'm now trying to connect this user via Fortinet client, and two-factor authentication is already enabled here. So let's see whether it will ask for the two-factor. So it is asking, yeah. Now again, it is asking for the token, and on my mobile, I get a notification whether you want to approve. This is the IP address. This is the time for the login request. If I approve, it should automatically connect me to my head office and shouldn't provide any other option. Yeah, as you can see that 40 token push notification is enabled. Just want to show you if the same thing what will happen when I deny it. It should disconnect, right? So same thing I will do. I will now deny the request, so it should not. So as you can see, once I deny the request, it is showing me this option that is unable to connect to the VPN connection. So this is the functionality that is already there on the 40 token. So if any of your client is already using two-factor authentication, then you should enable this 40 token push functionality that will help, not only help them, but it will be user friendly from their side to log in into the 40 token. So this is it from my side. If you have any question, I'm here to help you and
with you. Thank you so much for everyone for joining the session, and thanks Ravi for a wonderful session, and we look forward to hosting you in the future webinars. Bye bye, and I hope all of you have a great day ahead.